Hey there, lovely listeners. Welcome back to the Relationship Circle podcast. I'm your host, Beck Thompson, and this podcast is all about showing you how to stop running in circles, ditch those games, and let your inner compass lead the way. Today, we're going to be deep diving into a topic that hits home for many of us, and that is the fear of rejection. And yes, we're talking about it in terms of dating today, but it can be like in many areas of your life. People get rejected at work, seeking new employment, in business, with family, with friends. So the learnings that we're going to go through today will cover over into many areas of your life. So rejection is that unsettling feeling that can grip your heart and halt your progress and really make you question your worth. But we're not going to let it stop us, right? We're going to confront it head on and figure out how to get through it. From an evolutionary perspective, rejection is something that our brains have learned to dread. So back in the day, way back in the day when we were still living in caves and roaming the jungle or the bush, our ancestors were all about forming social bonds. And, it's a bit like that today, but back then it was like their secret sauce for survival. And when you're part of a tight-knit group, you share food, you share protection, you share all the good stuff that connects you. And if you got kicked out of that group, it could literally mean life or death. So over time, our brains have wired themselves to hate that rejection because it was associated with danger. Fast forward to today's world, and we've got a whole new set of rejection triggers. So first off, we've got those societal pressures. Society loves to tell us what is cool, what's not cool, what's successful. And when you don't measure up to those standards, it feels like you're being rejected, not just by one person, but by a collective, that collective judgment of society. And it's like this giant popularity contest, and no one wants to be on that losing side. And the reality is that you're not going to be liked by everyone, and not everything you do is going to be loved on by everyone. So you're going to get rejected at some point, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. We'll go into that further. And then there's the monster called social media. And this is a double-edged sword because it's supposed to connect us, but quite often it leaves us feeling more lonely than ever. We post pictures, thoughts, and our most precious moments for the world to see. And when we don't get those likes or those comments or those shares that we hoped for, it stings. And it's like this digital slap in the face. And that's just another form of rejection. And I suppose let's not forget about the fear of judgment, because whether we've become really good at working on our self-worth, quite often when I work with people, I find that their self-worth is tied to external validation. So it isn't internally linked, it's externally linked. And when you lose that external part of you that is tied to the self-worth, so if your self-worth is tied to your career or a title that you've got or the amount of friends that you've got, or even on social media, the amount of followers that you've got, if it's linked to that external validation and you lose that, you will lose your self-worth from that. So it's so important not to tie it to external links. But if someone doesn't like our ideas at work, or they swipe left on us on a dating app, or they unfollow us online, it can feel like a personal failure. And we've got this mental scoreboard where rejection is this point against us. So the fear of rejection isn't just about fitting in with the cool kids. It's about our basic human instincts and the crazy world that we've created. Our brains are wired to avoid rejection. And in today's society, it's like we're walking on eggshells all the time, trying not to get rejected. But then we're usually not putting our best self forward. And interestingly, rejection piggybacks on the physical pain pathways in the brain. So fMRI studies have shown that the same areas of the brain become activated when we experience rejection as when we experience physical pain. And that's why rejection can hurt so much or feel like it's hurting so much. And it's so important to become aware of this and work on it, as it allows you to become your authentic self. And when you are your authentic self, that is incredibly attractive to someone else. It helps you become better at making decisions with relationships and avoid settling for less, because you're able to be completely yourself, own who you are, because you're not worried about getting rejected. And you know that when you get rejected, it's not a bad thing necessarily. And it will boost your confidence. And through this process of you becoming more confident and stepping into being you, that makes you more appealing to other people. And when you're able to embrace vulnerability, it leads to deeper and more meaningful connections. And this is one of the biggest things I talk about with people, is that it allows you to filter out the people that are not for you. So when you are completely authentically you, it is your filter straight away that the people who are not for you, see you later, they don't make the filter, and it saves you time and energy, and it moves you away from dating burnout. I see people burn out all the time in dating because they're trying to have this wide cast of a filter and include everyone in there because they don't want to get rejected, but yet half these people they don't even want anyway. So taking control of that fear empowers you to date with intention and purpose, and it improves your overall dating experience. Let's talk about this idea of rejection as redirection, as it's similar to what we spoke about last week around things happening for us as opposed to them happening to us. So Steve Maraboli says, every time I thought I was being rejected from something good, I was actually being redirected to something better. And it isn't until we look back on things that we often realize this. I remember working with this client who really struggled to get beyond the first date with so many women, and he just suffered a lot of rejection because of it. It was like a constant pattern for him. And it wasn't until he met his current partner that he understood why all these dates didn't work out. It was a constant redirection to her. So what if we decide to confront this fear head on? What if we challenge our assumptions and change our mindset? Today, I'm going to share practical strategies for you for doing just that. What if we reframe rejection and look at it from another angle? Like we just spoke about, what if we see rejection as redirection? It's not a roadblock, it's a signpost pointing us in a different direction. How can we actually overcome the fear of rejection? So I'm here to provide you with those actionable steps and strategies. And how do we face rejection head on and emerge stronger? So there's a nifty trick to tackle the fear of rejection, and that is cognitive behavioral exercises. And if you've never heard of that, it might sound fancy, but they're just mental workouts that can really help you in your dating game. Think of it this way. Our minds have this sneaky habit of spinning negative thoughts when we face rejection or the possibility of rejection. Like, they didn't text me back, they mustn't like me, I messed up the date, I'm a total failure, they're going to think I'm an idiot. I've heard all these sayings from women over and over again, and these thoughts can be super unhelpful and bring down how we feel about dating. So cognitive behavioral exercises can support you with this. They're like those mental gymnastics to help us reframe those negative thoughts into something more positive and something more constructive. It's all about flexing those mental muscles and building emotional resilience. So for example, instead of thinking, oh, they didn't text me back, they mustn't like me, you can reframe that, preferably in the moment when you've said it in your head. If you notice yourself saying that, so again, it always comes back to awareness. But if you can notice yourself saying that, change it to say, maybe they're just busy, maybe they had a crazy day. It's still when people are working, they don't have their phone on them all the time. So they're not just going to text you back constantly. So what we did there was giving yourself the benefit of the doubt and not jumping to conclusions and not catastrophizing what's happening. And when you find yourself thinking, I messed up a date, I'm a total failure, you could turn it around and say, well, maybe that date wasn't a great fit, but it's still a learning experience. And this is what I'll do differently next time. And then you've transformed that self-criticism into self-improvement. These exercises are like your mental shield against the fear of rejection, and they help you stay positive, they help you keep your cool, and they help you, this is most important, bounce back stronger from dating setbacks. Because remember, they're not a wall, they're just redirecting you. It's all about building that emotional resilience so you can tackle the dating world with confidence. And most importantly, when you're doing all of this, please don't forget to practice self-compassion. Be kind to yourself and recognize that rejection, like many things, is a part of life and it has nothing to do with your self-worth. When you get rejected, that doesn't mean you're not worthy of being with someone. That's just another story you've made up. So change the story, change the way that you're thinking about it. So today we spoke about that fear of rejection being deeply rooted in our evolution and then just amplified by what's happening in society currently. but it's not an obstacle that you cannot get past. If you can implement changing your thoughts around rejection, you're really off to a great start. Next week, we're going to jump into the topic around dating anxiety and attachment styles. And I'd love to hear from you, the listeners. Share your stories, your thoughts, your experiences with me, and let's create a supportive community to tackle this fear together. And please remember, the fear of rejection doesn't define us. With knowledge, resilience, a little bit of courage, we can rewrite our stories and embrace life's challenges.